The story begins in the aftermath of the Cell Games, a pivotal moment in the Dragon Ball universe where the fate of Earth hung in the balance. Gohan, the son of Goku, had unlocked the legendary Super Saiyan 2 transformation during his battle with Cell, ultimately defeating the bio-android and saving the world. However, peace was short-lived. The Z fighters soon discovered that Cell's defeat had left a lingering void in the universe, one that attracted even greater threats. Sensing the need to grow stronger, Gohan made a bold decision. He would enter the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, a mystical room where 1 year inside equated to only a day in the outside world. His goal was clear: to master his newfound power and surpass even his father, Goku, who had long been the benchmark of strength among the Z fighters. Gohan's motivation stemmed from a deep sense of responsibility. Though he was just a child, he had witnessed the devastation caused by villains like Frieza, the androids, and Cell. He knew that his potential was immense, but it was still untapped. Goku, ever the supportive father, encouraged Gohan to pursue this path, believing that his son could achieve greatness beyond what he himself had accomplished. Meanwhile, Vegeta, the proud Saiyan prince, scoffed at the idea of Gohan surpassing him, vowing to train even harder to maintain his superiority. The stage was set for a new era of growth and rivalry among the Z fighters. As Gohan entered the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, he was accompanied by Piccolo, his longtime mentor and surrogate father figure. Piccolo understood the gravity of the situation and knew that Gohan's training would require not just physical strength, but also mental fortitude. The chamber itself was a vast, otherworldly space with an endless white void and a harsh, gravity-heavy environment. The air was thin, and the temperature fluctuated wildly, making it a grueling place to train. Despite these challenges, Gohan was determined to push his limits. The training began with a series of intense sparring sessions between Gohan and Piccolo. At first, Gohan struggled to maintain his Super Saiyan form, his energy fluctuating as he tried to control the immense power coursing through his body. Piccolo, ever the stern teacher, pushed him relentlessly, launching a barrage of energy blasts and physical attacks. Gohan dodged and countered as best he could, but Piccolo's experience and precision gave him the upper hand. "You're holding back, Gohan," Piccolo shouted, his voice echoing through the chamber. "If you want to surpass your father, you need to stop hesitating." Gohan clenched his fists, his golden aura flaring as he unleashed a powerful Kamehameha wave. The energy blast surged toward Piccolo, who crossed his arms in front of him to block it. The force of the attack sent Piccolo skidding backward, but he quickly recovered, launching himself at Gohan with a spinning kick. Gohan countered with a swift uppercut, the impact sending shockwaves through the chamber. The two fighters exchanged blows at blinding speed, their movements a blur of energy and determination. With each clash, Gohan's confidence grew, and his control over his Super Saiyan form improved. As the days turned into weeks, Gohan began to experiment with his power, pushing beyond the limits of Super Saiyan. He remembered the moment he had first achieved Super Saiyan 2 during his battle with Cell, the electrifying aura, the surge of energy, the overwhelming sense of power. He knew that if he could tap into that transformation again, he could reach new heights. Piccolo, sensing Gohan's determination, increased the intensity of their training, forcing Gohan to dig deeper. One day, during a particularly grueling session, Gohan's frustration boiled over. "I can't do it, Piccolo," he shouted, his voice filled with desperation. "No matter how hard I try, I can't reach that level again." Piccolo paused, his expression softening for a moment. "You're thinking too much," he said. "Stop trying to force it. Let your emotions guide you." Gohan closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. He thought about everything he had been through, the loss of his friends, the sacrifices made by his father, the weight of his responsibility. His anger and determination merged into a single, focused energy. Suddenly, Gohan's aura erupted in a blinding flash of light. The ground beneath him cracked as his power surged, and his hair spiked upward, glowing with an electric blue hue. Super Saiyan 2. Piccolo stepped back, a rare smile crossing his face. "That's more like it," he said. Gohan's eyes burned with intensity as he unleashed a flurry of attacks, each one faster and more powerful than the last. Piccolo struggled to keep up, his defenses crumbling under the sheer force of Gohan's assault. With a final, devastating punch, Gohan sent Piccolo flying across the chamber, the impact creating a shockwave that reverberated through the void. As Gohan stood there, his body crackling with energy, he realized that he had finally achieved his goal. He had not only mastered Super Saiyan 2 but had also surpassed his father's strength. The initial conflict of the story, Gohan's struggle to unlock his full potential, had been resolved, but a new challenge loomed on the horizon. The Z fighters would soon face a threat even greater than Cell, and Gohan's newfound power would be put to the ultimate test. The stage was set for an epic battle, one that would determine the fate of the universe once again. The air inside the hyperbolic time chamber crackled with tension as Son Gohan stood at the center of the vast, white expanse, his muscles taut and his aura flaring with golden energy. The gravity of the chamber pressed down on him, but he had grown accustomed to its weight after months of relentless training. His father, Son Goku, and the android, Cell, stood opposite him, their eyes locked in a deadly stare. The stakes were clear. This was no ordinary sparring session. This was a battle to determine the fate of the Earth, and Gohan knew he had to push beyond his limits to protect everything he held dear. The fight began with a deafening roar as Goku lunged forward, his fists blazing with ki. Gohan sidestepped, his movements fluid and precise, but Cell was already closing in from the other side. The android's tail whipped through the air, aiming for Gohan's torso, but the young Saiyan twisted mid-air, narrowly avoiding the strike. Gohan retaliated with a swift kick to Cell's midsection, sending the android skidding backward. Goku, seizing the opportunity, unleashed a flurry of punches, each one faster than the last. Gohan blocked and countered, his reflexes honed to perfection after a year of grueling training in the time chamber. As the battle raged on, the combatants began to reveal their true power. Goku's Super Saiyan aura burned brighter, his attacks growing more ferocious. Cell, too, began to push his limits, his body adapting to the intensity of the fight. His cells, stolen from the greatest warriors in the universe, allowed him to mimic their techniques. He fired a Kamehameha wave, the energy beam surging toward Gohan with terrifying speed. Gohan crossed his arms in front of his chest, deflecting the blast, but the force of it sent him skidding across the chamber's floor. Goku, sensing an opening, charged at Cell with a thunder flash attack, his fists crackling with electricity. Cell dodged the initial strike, but Goku's follow-up kick connected, sending the android crashing into a distant wall. Gohan, recovering from the Kamehameha, joined his father, their combined assault forcing Cell onto the defensive. The android's regeneration abilities were put to the test as Goku and Gohan unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, each one exploding against Cell's body with devastating force. But Cell was far from defeated. With a roar of fury, he unleashed his perfect barrier, a sphere of energy that repelled Goku and Gohan's attacks. The barrier expanded outward, forcing the Scions to retreat. Cell's eyes glowed with malice as he began to gather energy for his solar Kamehameha, a technique that combined the power of the Kamehameha with the destructive force of the sun. Goku and Gohan exchanged a glance, their minds racing to devise a strategy. Gohan, realizing that brute force alone wouldn't be enough, decided to tap into the depths of his power. He closed his eyes, focusing on the rage that had been building within him since the death of his friends at Cell's hands. His aura began to shift, the golden light of his Super Saiyan form intensifying. Sparks of electricity crackled around his body as he ascended to Super Saiyan 2, his power level skyrocketing. The ground beneath him cracked and splintered, the sheer force of his transformation shaking the entire chamber. Goku, sensing his son's newfound strength, stepped back, allowing Gohan to take the lead. Cell, undeterred, fired his solar Kamehameha, the massive energy beam hurtling toward Gohan. But the young Saiyan stood his ground, his eyes blazing with determination. With a roar, Gohan unleashed his own Kamehameha, the two beams colliding in a blinding explosion of light and energy. The force of the clash sent shockwaves rippling through the chamber, the walls trembling under the strain. The battle reached its climax as Gohan and Cell engaged in a brutal hand-to-hand duel. Gohan's movements were a blur, his strikes landing with pinpoint accuracy. Cell, despite his regeneration abilities, began to falter under the relentless assault. Gohan's fists and feet moved with a speed and precision that left the android struggling to keep up. Each blow landed with bone-crushing force, the sound of impact echoing through the chamber. Cell, desperate to turn the tide, attempted to absorb Gohan's energy, but the young Saiyan was ready. He channeled his ki into a powerful energy shield, repelling Cell's attack. With a final, devastating punch, Gohan sent Cell flying across the chamber, the android's body slamming into the far wall with a thunderous crash. Gohan, his aura blazing brighter than ever, prepared to deliver the finishing blow. But Cell, refusing to accept defeat, unleashed one last, desperate attack. He gathered all of his remaining energy into a massive energy sphere, the sheer size of it threatening to consume the entire chamber. Gohan, realizing the danger, knew he had to act quickly. He focused all of his power into his hands, his aura flaring to its peak. With a roar that shook the very fabric of the time chamber, Gohan unleashed a final Kamehameha, the energy beam surging forward with unstoppable force. The two attacks collided in a cataclysmic explosion, the sheer power of the clash threatening to tear the chamber apart. Gohan, his body pushed to its absolute limit, poured every ounce of his strength into the attack. The energy beam overwhelmed Cell's sphere, engulfing the android in a blinding light. When the dust settled, Cell was gone, his body disintegrated by the sheer force of Gohan's attack. Gohan, his body trembling with exhaustion, fell to his knees, the weight of the battle finally catching up to him. Goku, rushing to his son's side, placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You did it, Gohan," he said, his voice filled with pride. "You've surpassed me. You've become the strongest warrior in the universe." As the two Scions stood together in the aftermath of the battle, the hyperbolic time chamber began to destabilize, the strain of the fight having taken its toll. Goku and Gohan prepared to exit the chamber, their bond stronger than ever. The battle against Cell had pushed them to their limits, but in the end, it was Gohan's strength, determination, and love for his family that had carried them to victory. The Earth was safe once more, and the legacy of the Scions would continue to shine brightly in the hands of the next generation. The final battle between Son Gohan and Cell reached its zenith within the confines of the hyperbolic time chamber, a realm where time itself seemed to bend and stretch under the weight of their immense power. The air crackled with energy as Gohan, now fully transformed into a Super Saiyan 2, stood tall, his golden aura blazing like a sun. His eyes, sharp and determined, locked onto Cell, who had also pushed his limits to their absolute peak. The perfect form was no longer enough, Cell had evolved further, his body radiating a sinister, pulsating energy that threatened to destabilize the very fabric of the chamber. The clash began with a deafening roar as Gohan lunged forward, his fist colliding with Cell's in a shockwave that sent tremors through the dimension. The ground beneath them shattered, and the walls of the chamber groaned under the strain. Gohan's movements were a blur, each strike faster and more precise than the last, but Cell matched him blow for blow. The android's laughter echoed through the chamber, a chilling reminder of his confidence. "You think this is enough, boy? I am perfection incarnate." Cell taunted, his voice dripping with malice. Gohan, however, remained silent, his focus unshakable. He had spent a year in this chamber, training relentlessly, pushing his body and mind to their limits. He knew this was his moment, his chance to prove himself, not just to his father, but to the entire universe. The battle escalated as Cell unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, each one more devastating than the last. Gohan dodged and weaved, his movements almost precognitive, as if he could anticipate Cell's every move. But even with his newfound power, Gohan could feel the strain. His muscles burned, and his breath came in ragged gasps. Cell, too, was feeling the pressure. His once perfect form began to show cracks, his energy fluctuating as he pushed himself beyond his limits. "You're strong, Gohan," Cell admitted, his voice tinged with frustration. "But strength alone won't save you." Gohan's response was a sudden burst of speed, his body vanishing and reappearing behind Cell in an instant. He delivered a devastating kick to Cell's back, sending the android crashing into the ground. The impact created a massive crater, and Cell roared in anger as he struggled to rise. Gohan hovered above him, his aura flaring brighter than ever. "This ends now," Gohan declared, his voice steady and resolute. He raised his hands, gathering energy into a massive Kamehameha wave. The chamber trembled as the energy grew, the sheer power threatening to tear the dimension apart. Cell, however, was not done yet. With a furious scream, he unleashed his own attack, a colossal energy sphere that rivaled Gohan's Kamehameha. The two attacks collided in a blinding explosion of light and sound, the shockwave rippling through the chamber and beyond. The sheer force of the clash created a rift in time itself, the walls of the chamber beginning to collapse. Gohan gritted his teeth, pouring every ounce of his strength into the attack. He could feel his body reaching its limit, but he refused to give up. This was for his father, for his friends, for everyone who had ever believed in him. As the two attacks continued to clash, Gohan's mind flashed back to his training with his father, Son Goku. He remembered the countless hours spent sparring, the moments of doubt and frustration, and the unwavering support of his father. "You have the potential to surpass me, Gohan," Goku had told him. "But you have to believe in yourself." Those words echoed in Gohan's mind now, fueling his resolve. With a final, desperate push, he channeled all of his energy into the Kamehameha, the beam growing brighter and more powerful with each passing second. Cell's eyes widened in shock as he realized he was being overwhelmed. "No. This can't be." He screamed, his voice filled with desperation. But it was too late. Gohan's Kamehameha surged forward, engulfing Cell in a blinding explosion of light. The android's body disintegrated, his screams fading into nothingness as the energy consumed him. The chamber itself began to collapse, the walls crumbling as the rift in time grew larger. Gohan, exhausted and battered, fell to his knees as the chamber dissolved around him. He had done it. He had defeated Cell. But the victory came at a cost. The strain of the battle had pushed his body to its absolute limit, and he could feel his energy fading. As the chamber collapsed, Gohan was pulled into the rift, his body disappearing into the void. When Gohan awoke, he found himself back in the real world, lying on the ground surrounded by his friends and family. The battle was over, and the universe was safe once more. But things had changed. Gohan's victory had not only saved the world but it also shifted the balance of power. He had proven himself as a warrior, surpassing even his father in strength and resolve. The dynamic between Gohan and Goku had shifted, with Gohan now standing as a true protector of Earth. The aftermath of the battle was bittersweet. While the immediate threat of Cell had been eliminated, the scars of the battle remained. The hyperbolic time chamber had been destroyed, and the rift in time had caused unforeseen consequences. The future of the universe was uncertain, but one thing was clear: Gohan had emerged as a hero, a symbol of hope and strength. His actions had changed the course of history, and his legacy would be remembered for generations to come. As Gohan stood among his friends and family, he felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. He had faced his fears, pushed past his limits, and achieved the impossible. But he also knew that this was just the beginning. The universe was vast, and there would always be new challenges to face. With his newfound strength and determination, Gohan was ready to face whatever the future held. The battle with Cell had been a defining moment, not just for Gohan, but for the entire universe. And as he looked to the horizon, Gohan knew that his journey was far from over.